She was treated like garbage, living as a doormat for a fake saint and a scammer fiancé. But she finally snapped. Instead of taking the abuse, she shoves the toxic saint directly into the dirt. She completely destroyed her engagement and teamed up with the Empire's most dangerous Villainess. Her trash ex tried to flex, but her new god-tier bestie crushed him in seconds. Now she controls massive wealth and has the ultimate duke backing her every move. The name is I became the Villainous favorite, and the puppet show is over. The stage is set with a series of heavy doors where a girl stands weeping in the center, flanked by men while a blonde doll looms in the background. Under the spotlight, the world belongs to the green-haired and green-eyed Serafina Lopez, the brilliantly shiny protagonist who treats everyone like puppets in her personal play. But our girl is currently finished watching the show, and as she crushes the door representing the black-haired puppet, she decides it is time to destroy this hypocritical performance for the whole world to see. The scene shifts to the Imperial Palace Ballroom where the air is thick with the scent of expensive cologne and high society secrets. While everyone sips their red wine, three men are practically forming a human barricade around Serafina, leaving no room for anyone else to breathe near the so-called lily of society. From the sidelines, the local gossips notice a glaring absence, wondering where that shabby errand runner is today. They whisper about the girl who used to follow Serafina around like she had a terminal case of separation anxiety, looking so ragged in her plain outfits that people genuinely mistook her for the help. Suddenly, a woman glides past the crowd with such elegance that the gossips nearly choke on their own judgment. Our girl listens to them recite the cruel nicknames she used to endure, like footwipe and servant, knowing Serafina was the one who carefully curated that reputation. As our girl enters the room, the crowd is stunned by her magnificent dress, though she privately thinks this much flash doesn't quite match her usual vibe. In the center of the room, a blonde man and a guy with a ponytail are busy competing for Serafina's attention, claiming she is the only one for them. Serafina plays the part of the shy maiden perfectly, soaking up the praise of being the most beautiful woman in the room until our girl finally interrupts the circle. Serafina puts on a happy face, but her eyes tell a different story when she sees our girl looking like a high-definition dream instead of a background extra. The men are visibly shook, wondering if this gorgeous woman is actually the same gloomy lady they used to ignore. The side characters are having a collective crisis, recognizing the designer labels from Madame Savara and the latest Celsini hair ornaments that even Serafina doesn't own. Seeing her spotlight stolen, Serafina crunches her fist in a fit of envy before quickly pivoting to her favorite weapon of choice, passive-aggressive concern. She gets close to our girl and whispers that while she clearly spent a fortune, the extravagant look just doesn't suit her plain features. She insists that if our girl had only asked, she would have picked out something that didn't create such embarrassing dissonance. Before Serafina can finish negging her friend into submission, a new player enters the chat. The ballroom goes quiet as Evangeline Claudius, the legendary rose of the Empire and sole daughter of a ducal family, steps forward. She reveals that she was the one who personally styled our girl from head to toe, and she finds it incredibly interesting that Serafina is insulting her refined taste. Serafina looks like a Windows update that got stuck at 99%, stammering that she didn't mean it like that. Lady Claudius doesn't buy the act for a second and points out that our girl is clearly the most beautiful person at the ball, a sentiment the rest of the room quickly parrots to stay on the Duchess's good side. Realizing her social dominance is evaporating, Serafina breaks out the waterworks, acting like a victim and accusing our girl of abandoning their friendship just because she found a more powerful connection. Lady Claudius has zero patience for the performance, telling Serafina to stop trying to smooth over her malice with tears. She firmly reminds the green-haired protagonist that real friends don't dictate what others should do and demands an apology. Without waiting for one, she grabs our girl and leads her out to the garden. Once they are alone, Lady Claudius drops the hero act, explaining she only helped because having someone shabby by her side is embarrassing and she won't tolerate her people being disrespected. Our girl just smiles, realizing that while Lady Claudius might be the designated villainess, she is exactly the kind of powerhouse ally she needs. The scene rewinds to a garden tea party at the Johansson estate a few weeks ago, where the air is thick with the scent of expensive tea and even more expensive audacity. Our girl is currently having a spiritual crisis, realizing she has possessed a character in a situation so absurd it makes her soul want to take a permanent vacation. She is standing there like a human coat rack holding a stack of cushions while her supposed fiancé, Gregor, is busy auditioning for the role of Serafina's most devoted lapdog. He is hovering over the green-haired snake, touching her arm and asking with deep concern if she is too tired to sit or if her back hurts from being so perfect for so long. Serafina accepts the attention with a fake sweet smile, thanking Gregor and telling him how glad she is that he worries about her, while our girl just stands there questioning her life choices. The fiancé continues his performance by serving Serafina her favorite dark tea while it is still warm, completely ignoring the woman he is actually engaged to. Our girl is currently reconsidering her subscription to this reality, while her character remains frozen in obedient servant mode. Serafina then decides to take a trip down memory lane, reminiscing about their childhood outings and specifically bringing up the time our girl fell into a pond. Gregor, who is clearly a PhD candidate in being a scam artist, chimed in to remind everyone that Serafina got a scar on her knee while saving our heroine's life. He tells our girl that she is only alive because of Serafina's grace, so she needs to be grateful and start treating the green-haired girl better. Our girl tries to fire back with a devastating comeback, but her vocal cords are currently on strike. The words just won't form. A memory of the actual pond incident flickers through her mind, showing Serafina handing her a stick that looked more like a poking tool than a lifeline, which explains why this body has been conditioned to be a doormat for so long. Serafina then leans into her favorite role as a helpless princess, asking our girl to go wade into the pond and pick some flowers since she totally can't reach them without ruining her aesthetic. She whispers that our girl is her only real friend, using guilt like a master puppeteer pulling at a frayed string. The drama reaches a boiling point when Serafina accidentally tips her tea with the practiced precision of a clumsy assassin, claiming her dress is damp and her life is a disaster. She points her shoe at our heroine and mentions her shoelaces are a mess, clearly expecting a full-service foot wipe experience right there in front of the neighbors. Instead of defending his fiancé, the scam artist fiancé snatches the cushions out of our girl's hands, tells her to stop being a useless statue, and orders her to get down and help Serafina. He even tucks a cushion behind the green-haired snake's back so she can lounge in comfort while our girl is treated like a servant. From the sidelines, the local gossips are having a field day, whispering that the heir to County Lency is basically acting like a professional intern just to stay in the cool girls club. Our girl hears every insulting word and is privately screaming as her body betrays her, actually moving to scrub the tea off the dress of this green-haired menace. The whispers get even louder, noting that our girl looks like a background shadow designed specifically to make Serafina's beauty pop in high definition. Even as she is nearly on the ground doing manual labor, Serafina leans down to twist the knife, asking our heroine if she isn't even angry about being treated like a puppet. Serafina is practically begging for a reaction, but she wasn't prepared for the transmigrator's internal fight-or-flight response to finally choose violence. Something inside our girl finally hits the override button on her submissive instincts. Instead of a gentle cleaning, she gives the green-haired professional victim a solid shove that sends her directly into the dirt. The entire tea party goes silent as Serafina hits the grass in total disbelief. The fiancé starts barking about whether she has lost her mind, but our girl just looks at her hands and realizes she has finally renewed her subscription to free will. She can finally move properly, and the puppet show has officially been cancelled. The legend of lovely Serafina begins like every other tired fairy tale, featuring a village girl, so aggressively kind she practically spent her days handing out her lunch to the poor. The commoners adored her so much they basically crowdfunded her debut into high society, praying their saintly flower would find a man who deserved her. According to the original plot, she was meant to survive the bullying of a wicked villainess and secure a happily ever after that would make anyone else feel like a background character. Our girl looks at the internal illustrations of this world and realizes she is exactly that, a faceless blur in the background whose only identifying feature is a massive, gloomy curtain of bangs. Back in the reality of the garden party, the village saint is currently getting a close-up view of the dirt after our girl's shove. The scam artist fiancé, Gregor, is having a total internal meltdown, hovering over her and asking if he needs to summon a medical team to save his frail flower from the trauma of touching grass. Serafina scrambles up with a death glare that proves her internal organs are made of pure spite, even though she is still wearing the mask of a helpless protagonist. Gregor immediately snaps at our heroine to apologize for her existence, while the side characters whisper that she probably shoved her friend because she's jealous that Serafina looks better standing next to her man. Serafina decides to lean into the drama, practically melting into Gregor's arms and claiming her dizziness is making a spectacular comeback. She insists she's so startled she's about to cry, while the fiancé blushes like a love-struck teenager and acts like a bodyguard for a porcelain doll. Our girl watches the cringe fest with the energy of someone watching a very bad amateur play, realizing they are probably trying to make her jealous. She casually tells them to turn down the volume on their drama, and promises to apologize once the dirt-loving duo finally decides to stand up and stop blocking the view. Serafina is privately fuming, wondering why our heroine isn't groveling on the floor or having a breakdown as the script usually demands. The Countess Johansson eventually wanders over to see why people are cluttering up her lawn, suggesting everyone move to the lounge since she spent a fortune on high-end carpets to keep the guests safe. Instead of being a normal human being, Gregor decides to commit social suicide by insulting the hostess, claiming that mere carpets aren't enough to protect such a delicate creature and rudely implying the Countess's preparations were lacking. Our girl realizes her fiancé has the situational awareness of a brick and steps in to save the day, apologizing to the Countess and claiming the accident happened while she was simply checking Serafina's shoes. Gregor, who is clearly missing several critical brain cells, asks how a simple shoe check could cause a full-on gravity failure. Our girl gives him a look that suggests he's the world's biggest idiot before calmly revealing that since the shoelaces were perfectly tied, she found the fall quite mysterious. The protagonist frantically tries to hide her feet as our heroine mock apologizes for being so clumsy. She suggests Serafina's body is just so incredibly slender and frail that a gentle breeze might send her into the next zip code, leaving the entire crowd to realize the fall was a calculated performance. The Countess is completely over the drama and coldly instructs her staff to tidy up, leaving with a parting remark that effectively turns the green-haired girl into a social pariah. Our girl watches the protagonist stand there in shock, noting that for the first time in her life, the girl is experiencing the cold chill of being ignored. A few days later, back at the townhouse, our girl is being bombarded with letters from the toxic duo, but she doesn't even bother opening them. She tells her maid to feed the entire stack directly to the fireplace because she has much more important business to attend to. As she sits at her desk and puts pen to paper, she realizes the most urgent task in her new life is finally ending her subscription to this engagement once and for all. Our girl is practically glowing as she reviews her flawless legal documents, completely satisfied that her referenced precedents make this broken engagement ironclad. She is desperate to cut the dead weight out of her life. A repulsive memory surfaces of her acting as a glorified pack mule, while Gregor openly flirted and handed a beautiful costume to the green-haired snake right in front of her. The math of their relationship is insultingly clear. Gregor is a penniless second son who inherits nothing, making our girl the sole heir to a viscountcy with actual land, his golden ticket to unearned status. Her parents saw through his gold digging from day one, and now she is finally ready to prioritize her peace and send the letter. Before the ink can dry, the door violently flies open and Gregor bursts in looking like a teapot about to whistle. A panicked maid tries to explain from the hallway, but our girl casually waves her off, instructing the staff to wait outside with Hans the butler. Internally judging the sheer audacity of a man storming into her bedroom without knocking, she listens to Gregor bark about her ignoring his letters. She casually mentions she has been sick, but he steamrolls right over her health to whine about the trouble she caused by leaving their recent picnic early. That triggers a lovely memory of him screaming at her to apologize to his precious Serafina. Deciding to test his patience, our girl unleashes a dramatic fake cough and asks him to repeat himself. When Gregor stands there completely stunned, our girl drops the sick facade entirely. Realizing that pretending to be frail for his benefit is a massive drain on her energy, she turns deadly serious and demands an apology. She scolds him for barging in and lacking basic manners, but Gregor loudly claims his title as fiancé gives him a VIP pass to be informal. She advises him to choose his words carefully, reminding him that a real partner wouldn't prioritize Serafina at a picnic and follow it up with days of harassment. Armed with the unearned confidence of a mediocre nobleman, Gregor defends his childhood friend and accuses our heroine of being completely inconsiderate. He smugly suggests she behave herself before he stops being lenient. Our girl simply returns his smile, picks up her freshly penned masterpiece, and cheerfully announces she will do exactly as he wishes. She hands him the official letter of annulment, watching his brain completely short-circuit. Dropping her polite tone, she explains that a man too busy catering to his best friend to notice his partner is sick is completely useless. As Gregor starts to shout in protest, she effortlessly shuts him down by calling for Hans. The butler, built like a brick fortress, steps directly into the ex-fiancé's personal space. Completely intimidated, Gregor swallows his pride and weakly claims he is only leaving because she is sick. He promises they aren't done talking, but our girl just smiles as he gets escorted out like a noisy trespasser. Once alone, our girl breathes a sigh of relief, though the headache of being a supporting character lingers. She pours herself a massive glass of liquor, rage drinking as she realizes breaking the engagement might not save her from a world hardwired to love the protagonist. Pondering how to escape Serafina's narrative snare, she remembers the original novel's famous villainess, Evangeline Claudius. The realization hits her like a freight train. Serafina is actually the one who strikes first, deliberately spreading false rumors to ruin Evangeline's reputation. Since both our girl and Lady Claudius are destined to be unfairly harassed by the green-haired menace, joining forces is the ultimate solution. The scene shifts to the luxurious Claudius residence the next morning, where Evangeline reads a freshly delivered letter with a massive smirk. When a blonde man asks about the sender, Evangeline admits she has never heard of her, but judging by the audacious proposal, she already knows this young lady is incredibly bold. Back in her room, our girl is currently dealing with a severe case of morning after regrets. Her maid, Amy, helpfully confirms that yes, while completely intoxicated last night, our heroine demanded a letter be delivered to Lady Claudius immediately, repeating the frantic order at least 10 times. Our girl's soul practically leaves her body as she realizes she drunk-mailed the most dangerous woman in the Empire without remembering a single word she wrote. She mentally begs the universe to throw in a regression system to undo her terrible life choices, but instead, another maid enters to announce that Lady Lopez has arrived. Figuring the green-haired snake is just here to finish the harassment job Gregor started, our heroine refuses to play along. Instead of going down to the drawing room, she orders the staff to send the so-called saint directly up to her bedroom. Serafina enters looking like the absolute picture of saintly concern, immediately dropping to her knees and grabbing our girl's hand to fret over her illness. Our heroine smoothly yanks her hand back, assuring the girl she is feeling much better. When Serafina points out that she has never been called up to this room before, our girl fires back with cold facts. She points out that she has never even been allowed to sit in Serafina's drawing room, leaving her feeling more like a glorified maid than an actual guest. Serafina stands up, her innocent mask slipping just a fraction as she coldly states she had no idea our girl felt that way. Even though her mind is sharp, our heroine's body violently trembles from the ingrained, traumatic fear of the protagonist's influence. Determined to overcome this physical submission, she grabs Serafina by the wrist, ready to finally stand her ground. Before the tension can snap, a maid bursts into the room with earth-shattering news. A reply has arrived from the Claudius estate, complete with the ducal seal and a carriage waiting outside. Our girl is internally throwing a massive parade, but Serafina completely loses her composure. The green-haired snake drops the sweet act entirely, grabbing our girl's wrist with an intimidating glare and demanding to know exactly what was in that letter to warrant such an elite invitation. Realizing Serafina is way too interested in the villainess, our girl casually pulls the letter out of reach, noting that snooping is a bit much even for a best friend. She promptly orders Serafina to leave so she can get dressed. Serafina tries one last desperate jab, claiming the illness must be affecting our girl's brain. But our heroine just smiles and replies that her head has actually never been clearer. As Amy happily escorts the annoyed protagonist out, our girl celebrates her very first victory of chasing the menace away. The scene immediately shifts to a mansion, so massive it looks like a literal castle. Walking through the grand halls, our heroine frantically worries if her hasty outfit is presentable, and prays the villainess won't think she is a complete weirdo. When the heavy doors finally open, our girl stops dead in her tracks, completely mesmerized. Evangeline Claudius is so stunningly beautiful that our heroine's heart starts hammering against her ribs, realizing she has read countless novels but never actually swooned over a fictional character until this exact moment. Evangeline calmly asks if she is Lady Lency, snapping our girl out of her trance long enough to bow and offer a proper greeting. The stunning villainess invites her to sit and apologizes for the sudden summons, though our girl insists it is an absolute honor. A maid brings out Darjeeling tea, which makes our heroine mentally cheer since their tastes perfectly match. Evangeline then asks our girl to slide her cup over so she can pour the tea herself. Panic instantly sets in, as our heroine's ingrained logic dictates that a high noble should never serve a lowly noble. She frantically tries to decline the offer, insisting she is fine. The polite atmosphere instantly evaporates. Evangeline drops her welcoming smile, her face twisting into pure annoyance as she bluntly asks if our girl is always this irritating. Our heroine freezes in total shock, realizing she might have just offended the one person she desperately needs on her side. Our girl is internally panicking, convinced she must have written something completely unhinged in her drunken letter to provoke such a cold reaction. But Evangeline shatters that fear by casually standing up and pouring the tea herself. She scolds our heroine for suddenly acting so incredibly subservient, pointing out that the author of such a bold letter shouldn't be belittling herself over a teacup. Evangeline slides over a perfectly brewed Darjeeling and a Madeline, firmly telling her to eat. Our girl realizes her lifelong habit of walking on eggshells is making her act like a peasant, and she feels a sudden urge to cry just from being treated with basic human courtesy. Swallowing her emotions, she puts on a bright smile and praises the excellent tea. Evangeline immediately blushes, proudly defending her taste for the highest quality varieties. Watching the blonde get flustered, our girl realizes this so-called villainess is actually just a prickly sweetheart, proving the original novel's plot was a complete lie and Serafina was the true mastermind all along. Getting down to business, Evangeline puts her teacup down and brings up the bold claim from the letter, asking exactly how our girl plans to restore her ruined reputation. Our heroine leans in, declaring that the ultimate method is for the two of them to become friends. When Evangeline looks thoroughly confused by the proposal, our girl carefully brings up the nasty high society rumors, painting the blonde as an arrogant ice queen who looks down on everyone. Evangeline's composed facade completely cracks. She gets visibly frustrated before forcefully reining her emotions back in, acting exactly like a grumpy cat trying to save face. Our girl explains the logic. If the untouchable lady is seen casually socializing with a lower-ranking noble without any barriers, society will instantly realize she is actually approachable, naturally crushing the nasty rumors. Evangeline follows the logic but demands to know exactly who their shared enemy is. Our girl casts her bait, dropping Serafina's name. The reaction is explosive. Evangeline slams her fist onto the table, ranting about how there should be a limit to how much that green-haired snake manipulates people and spreads false gossip while hiding behind a mask of frail innocence. Our girl is thrilled the blonde already sees through the saintly act and admits she also suffered under Serafina's thumb. Evangeline immediately launches into a ruthless roast, bluntly stating she used to think our heroine's eyes were physically attached to her feet since she spent all her time staring at the ground and chasing Serafina's shadow. She even asks if our girl's back hurts from bowing so much. Our heroine takes massive psychic damage from the horribly accurate insults, feeling her invisible bones snap under the weight of the verbal beatdown. Recovering from the roast, our girl explains the rest of the master plan. If Serafina's most loyal doormat abruptly cuts ties and defects to the supposed villainess, the high society gossip mill will completely shift gears. People will start questioning what Serafina did to drive her away, and those piling rumors will eventually force the green-haired snake to slip up. Evangeline admits it is a solid strategy, but she remains highly suspicious. Turning her back to look out the window, she points out that our girl was deeply entangled with the protagonist just yesterday, making this sudden betrayal look like a massive trap. Understanding the paranoia, our heroine stands up, extends her hand, and confidently proposes they act as temporary friends until she can properly prove her loyalty. Meanwhile, outside the estate, a carriage arrives early from a state council meeting. A brown-haired aide announces their arrival to Duke Dietrich Claudius, Evangeline's brother. Looking out the carriage window, the blonde duke spots his sister on the balcony with her new guest and smiles brightly, genuinely thrilled to see Evangeline finally opening up to a friend. The bestie is currently admiring how our girl went from a professional doormat to a bold negotiator in record time. She asks for definitive proof of the betrayal, and our girl assures her that the receipts are plentiful. They settle in for a high-stakes gossip session where our girl spills all the tea, literally. She explains how the green-haired snake deliberately poured hot drinks on her and even rigged her shoelaces to cause a public gravity failure. The bestie is genuinely shocked by the level of malice, realizing that Serafina isn't just a fake saint, she's a full-time saboteur. Our girl leans into her previous life's break-room bonding skills, knowing that nothing cements a friendship faster than trashing a common enemy over expensive snacks. In a rare moment of genuine warmth, the bestie grabs our girl's hands and assures her she did nothing wrong by cutting ties with that human headache. Our girl asks if this physical contact means they are officially friends, which sends the bestie into a flustered panic. She immediately snaps back to her prickly persona, insisting they are only temporary friends while looking exactly like a cat that just spotted a cucumber in its personal space. She clears her throat and admits that the rumors are making the entire Duke's estate uncomfortable, and her brother even threatened to cut off her allowance if the scandal continues. This makes our girl realize the original novel's plot of the sister being ousted from society is already in motion. The bestie admits she knows her personality is about as welcoming as a cactus, but our girl shuts down the self-deprecation immediately. She insists she has completely fallen for the bestie's cool personality and even wanted to be just like her. This praise causes the blonde villainess to start stuttering in total disbelief, noting that most people flinch the second she opens her mouth. Seizing the momentum, our girl asks to know more about what the bestie actually likes, but the conversation takes a sudden turn into a brutal fashion critique. The bestie looks at our girl's outfit and declares it an absolute disqualification for the role of a temporary friend. Our girl is privately devastated, considering she changed 10 times and picked the brightest rags in her closet, but she realizes her fashion sense is currently freezing over in this tax bracket. To fix the wardrobe emergency, The bestie suggests a top-tier salon and offers to take a walk through the garden. She admits she's always wanted to stroll through the flowers with someone her own age, which makes our girl's heart do a little happy dance. They spend the entire day bonding until it's time for dinner. The bestie invites her to stay, but our girl politely declines because running into the bestie's brother, who is destined to be Seraphina's future partner, is the last thing her mental health needs. Before she can leave, the bestie realizes she has a gift to give and dashes upstairs, but not before scolding our girl one last time. She points out that our girl spent the whole day catering to her and never shared her own preferences, insisting that their friendship needs to be a two-way street instead of another servant-master dynamic. Left alone for a moment, our girl realizes this is the first time in either of her lives that someone has treated her with actual respect and consideration. The weight of being seen as an equal instead of a shadow causes a single tear to escape her eye. She tries to compose herself, but quickly realizes she has lost her handkerchief somewhere in the massive estate. As she turns around to search for it, a man appears out of nowhere offering his own. Our girl looks up and finds herself face to face with the Duke himself, the very man she was trying to avoid, looking exactly like a high-definition dream holding a piece of silk. The original novel usually spent an exhausting amount of time describing Seraphina's saintly features, but the Villainess and her brother were the only ones who could actually compete for the word count. As our girl stands there, she realizes why the narration for the Duke of Emotional Damage was so long, because she is currently staring at a face so symmetrical, it should probably be illegal. She is so dazzled by this high-definition dream that she completely forgets how to human until Dietrich asks if she is alright. Our girl finally snaps out of her trance, realizes she's been staring like a creep, and snatches the handkerchief with a hurried thank you while her brain continues to buffer. Dietrich admits he was worried something catastrophic had happened inside the estate, considering the rumors surrounding his sister. Our girl immediately rushes to the blonde Villainess's defense, gushing about how Eva was actually incredibly warm and even offered fashion advice. She explains that her ladyship was a total sweetheart who listened attentively to every word, which makes the Duke start laughing with the genuine delight of a man who thinks his sister is being cute. He notes that Eva is doing things she normally never does, which makes our girl blush so hard she practically becomes a fire hazard. She realizes she completely overreacted during their first meeting and feels like her dignity is currently on a permanent vacation. The Duke makes his exit with the grace of a man who knows he's a masterpiece, promising to greet our girl properly next time. As he walks away, our heroine realizes that looking at a handsome man with actual manners is the ultimate medicine after the psychic trauma of dealing with Gregory. But before she can bask in the healing power of a nice jawline, the bestie returns with a basket of premium roses. The Villainess acts all smug, claiming the flowers are nothing special while clearly fishing for a compliment. Our girl takes them with a smile that could power a small city, promising to change the water every day just to keep a piece of this friendship alive. The touching moment is interrupted when the blonde looks at our girl's dress and decides she has reached her limit. She declares a state of emergency for our girl's wardrobe, announcing a 10 a.m. shopping trip for the next morning. She brutally notes that even her grandmother would find our girl's current outfit too vintage for comfort, causing our heroine's fashion sense to enter the ICU. Despite the roast, our girl is practically vibrating with excitement. She leans out the carriage window as she leaves, shouting that she is thrilled to spend the day together, leaving Eva standing on the steps looking like a cat that just accidentally found its favorite toy. Later that night, the Duke and his sister sit down for a dinner that feels more like a high-stakes interrogation. Dietrich starts teasing her about her new best friend, but the Villainess flips her hair and insists they are only temporary acquaintances. Her face turns a suspicious shade of red as her brother points out that he could hear her laughing from the other side of the house. Eva enters full angry cat mode, denying that she was loud while her brother just smiles, knowing she's already obsessed. To save face, the bestie pivots to a more serious topic, her allowance. She tries to negotiate for her funds to be restored, pointing out that she can't exactly go on a shopping spree and expect our girl to pay. Dietrich plays hardball, telling her he will have to see how she behaves first. Frustrated by his strictness, Eva sticks her tongue out at him and stomps away, leaving her brother to finish his meal in peace. Dietrich realizes that for his sister to swallow her pride and make such a request, our heroine must be something truly special. He decides to keep the name Lady Lency at the very top of his mental filing cabinet for future reference. The next morning, a carriage pulls up to the ANSI townhouse at exactly 9 o'clock, which is a full hour before the actual appointment. Our girl is standing there completely baffled, pointing out that Lady Claudius is aggressively early, but the bestie just looks away and tries to maintain her mighty aura. She insists she simply finished preparing early and it's a total coincidence, but our girl sees right through the act. When our heroine suggests that such an early start must have been exhausting, the villainess nearly short-circuits, blushing furiously while claiming she definitely didn't stay up all night vibrating with excitement for their playdate. Our girl internally imagines her as an overexcited cat that hasn't slept in 48 hours and decides to just smile and lean into the anticipation, even as the bestie keeps insisting her heart rate is totally normal. Inside the carriage, the denial continues at a high-definition level. The bestie is still trying to convince our girl that she wasn't counting down the minutes, but our heroine just promises to believe every adorable lie that falls out of her mouth. This only makes the villainess more flustered as they arrive at Madame Christensen's boutique. The second they step inside, Eva goes into full diva mode, ordering the shop owner to display every single item in the inventory. Our girl stands in the background, assuming she's just there to watch a billionaire restock her closet, until the bestie suddenly brandishes a pink dress. When our heroine suggests it would look great on Eva, the villainess transforms into a fashion-hungry tiger, offended that her companion has clearly forgotten they are here to fix our girl's wardrobe crisis. She snaps that these clothes are an investment for the time they'll spend together, and shoves our girl into the dressing room before she can even check the price tags. What follows is a high-speed styling montage that turns our girl into a walking masterpiece. Madame Christensen presents the first look, a pure white dress with a Chelsea scarf accent and a seasonal mini bag that radiates expensive energy. Next is a green and yellow silk set that makes our heroine look like the embodiment of a fresh spring morning, complete with a limited edition cherry blossom ribbon. Finally, the shop owner reveals a cherry blossom-colored dress, designed to match our girl's eyes, dripping in pink diamonds and featuring a choker that looks like it belongs in a museum. Our girl looks in the mirror and finally realizes she is actually quite beautiful when she isn't dressed like a background extra, but her poverty logic immediately kicks in. She starts sweating at the thought of the bill and tries to ask the shop owner for an installment plan or to maybe put a few dresses back, which is essentially the fastest way to piss off a duchess. The bestie's lion mode is instantly activated. She roars at our girl for even suggesting such a peasant-tier concept as a payment plan, her eyes flashing with the energy of someone who has never seen a bill they couldn't pay. Eva shuts down the haggling immediately, declaring that she is investing in our girl's appearance so they don't look like a mismatched pair in public, and coldly tells the shop owner to bill the entire mountain of silk to the Duke's household. Our girl is left standing there in shock, realizing she is officially a kept woman and feeling like she's falling for the villainess's aggressive generosity. With the wardrobe emergency handled, the bestie announces that the next step is a brunch spot with a reservation, so difficult to get it's basically a social miracle. They arrive at the ultra-exclusive restaurant, and the atmosphere is so high-end that our girl feels like her lungs are breathing in pure luxury. The bestie points her toward a prime window table but mentions she needs to go touch up her makeup, leaving our girl alone to navigate the menu. Sitting there by the window, our heroine looks around at the happy people and giggling groups, realizing that for the first time in both of her lives, she is actually enjoying a trivial, beautiful moment of everyday life. She stares at the menu, determined to pick the perfect first meal to celebrate her new friendship, but the piece is shattered by a voice that sounds like a cheese grater on a chalkboard. She looks up to find the saintly protagonist, Serafina, standing there with a look of fake surprise, ready to ruin the brunch of the century. Sitting at the window table, our girl is just starting to enjoy her high society debut when the piece is shattered by the arrival of her scam artist ex-fiancé and the green-haired snake. Gregor is trailing behind Serafina like a trained lapdog, even holding her bags, but the second he spots our heroine's glow up, his ego goes into overdrive. He has the audacity to assume she spent a fortune on silk and diamonds just to win him back, looking at her like he's the main prize in a very cheap lottery. The level of delusion is so high that both our girl and Serafina feel their souls momentarily leave their bodies in sheer shock. Gregor practically vibrates with unearned confidence, claiming that since she spent so many days ignoring his letters, she must be here to beg for a makeup session. Our girl realizes that his brain is currently running on a Windows update that got stuck at 1%. She coldly tells him she has company and advises him to keep walking, but Gregor refuses to accept the reality of his own rejection. He snaps that he is still her fiancé, despite the mountain of annulment papers she already sent him. When she tries to turn away, he decides to double down on being a public menace, grabbing her wrist and shoulder to physically intimidate her. He leans in close, whispering that he burned those papers and demanding she stop playing games because, in his eyes, no one else would ever be desperate enough to marry her. Our heroine looks around at the growing crowd, realizing she has officially become an everyday spectacle for the bored elite. She just wanted to have a normal lunch with a friend, but instead, she's being harassed by a man whose personality is a literal death trap for any romantic feelings. Gregor keeps blabbering about how she needs to cancel the breakup immediately, But the verbal harassment is cut short when the bestie arrives to do some high-speed pest control. Evangeline steps in with the grace of a duchess and the lethality of a professional roaster, demanding that Viscount Gusto let go of her friend immediately. Even Serafina is shook by the sudden appearance of the Empire's favorite villainess. The bestie doesn't hold back, pointing out that our girl already sent the breakup letter, and asking if Gregor is simply so pathetic that he has nothing better to do than stalk people who have already said no. She stares him down, suggesting that his lingering attachment is starting to look a lot like a mental health crisis. Gregor tries to save face, but under the bestie's freezing glare, he's basically forced to retreat into the shadows. Evangeline tells him to move aside because she'd like to eat her lunch without looking at his face, leaving Gregor to crunch his fists in fury while Serafina tries to quiet him down. With the trash successfully moved to the curb, our girl sits back down, but the bestie isn't done flexing. She publicly invites our heroine to the upcoming saloon, the Empire's most glamorous event for artists and writers that the Claudius family has hosted for generations. Serafina has been dying for an invite to this specific party, so hearing our girl get a personal invitation is like watching her favorite social ladder get set on fire. The bestie notices the snakes lingering and coldly asks if they have something else to say, forcing them to scurry away like guilty toddlers. Once they are finally alone, our heroine thanks her bestie for the rescue, but Evangeline just closes her menu with a satisfied smirk. She admits that putting those two in their place was actually refreshing and fun, treating the entire public drama like a delightful warm-up exercise. As they settle in to choose their favorite foods, starting with the bestie's love for apples, our girl realizes that as long as she is with this prickly sweetheart, her happiness is only going to expand. Outside, however, the atmosphere is much darker. Gregor is panicking about losing his future title and land, but Serafina snaps at him to shut up so she can think. She realizes our girl isn't just a shadow anymore. She has a literal duke's daughter backing her up, and the green-haired protagonist is starting to realize her puppet strings have been cut. Our girl is currently horizontal on her bed, clutching a letter from the bestie like it is a sacred relic. Evangeline is writing with the energy of a tsundere cat, insisting she does not actually miss our heroine. She is just very concerned about upholding the legal integrity of their friendship contract. The letter is a masterclass in aggressive caring, demanding our girl burn her trashy old wardrobe and wear the sky blue dress they picked out, specifically to avoid looking like a wandering ghost. Eva even throws in a warning about the sun, practically ordering our girl to use her parasol and visit the townhouse immediately, not because she is lonely, obviously, but just because. Our heroine is practically vibrating with joy, realizing that for the first time, someone actually wants to see her because they care about her existence. She knows the bestie is swamped with saloon prep, but if the villainess is calling, our girl is answering. The mood is instantly ruined when Amy delivers the news that the green-haired snake has returned, and this time, she has brought a final boss with her. Baroness Turner, Gregor's aunt and a woman whose personality is roughly 90% judgment and 10% perfume, is currently sitting in the drawing room trashing the tea quality. She is loudly wondering how Gregor survived such subpar hospitality, while Serafina plays the role of the enabling sidekick. Our girl remembers this woman from the original timeline as the primary source of her marital misery, a woman who spent her days comparing our girl to Serafina and demanding she bow her head in gratitude. Our heroine realizes the snake brought the dragon ant specifically to use fear as a weapon, assuming our girl would not dare kick out a high-ranking relative. Our girl enters the room and immediately skips the pleasantries, calling out the sheer audacity of bringing an uninvited guest. The Baroness does not miss a beat, screeching about the humiliation Gregor suffered from the public breakup and demanding to know if our girl has any shame. She insists a real lady should be gentle like Serafina, which gives our heroine the perfect opening. With a smile that radiates zero mercy, she suggests that if the Baroness loves the village saint so much, she should just engage her to Gregor and leave our heroine out of the family circus. The Baroness is absolutely floored by the insolence, while Serafina attempts to play the professional victim, demanding an apology for the slander against her and her precious childhood friend. Our girl isn't buying it. She explains that real friendship involves respect and actually knowing what the other person likes, concepts the green-haired snake has never bothered to learn. Emboldened by the respect she has found with the bestie, our girl finally draws the line, telling her former friend to pack up her acting skills and get out of the house. Serafina shifts gears from crying victim to creepy manipulator in record time. After the Baroness tries to play the she saved your life card regarding the pond incident, the snake gets close to our girl and starts whispering poison. She warns that the bestie is famous for her terrible personality and only uses lower nobles as human props before discarding them. She paints a terrifying picture of our heroine suffering alone at the upcoming saloon, and then, with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, offers to help by going along as a companion. Our girl watches the performance and finally sees the true goal behind the entire visit. The saintly protagonist does not care about our heroine's health or the breakup. She is just trying to hijack the invitation to the Empire's most exclusive party. Seraphina is still clutching our girl's hand like a stage 5 clinger, trying to sell the image of the worried saint, but our heroine smoothly retracts her limb as if she's just touched a radioactive potato. She explains with a fake sweet smile that as a lowly noble with the social standing of a background plant, she simply doesn't have the clout to bring a +1 to the Empire's most exclusive party. Seraphina's internal logic hits a total loading screen when our girl points out that pushing for a favor would likely just provoke the Duchess's legendary anger. Surely the village saint wouldn't want her best friend to be socially executed, right? Our heroine then pivots her focus to the fuming Baroness, the legendary dragon ant, casually suggesting that since she cherishes Seraphina so much, she should be the one to secure the invitation for her favorite person. The Baroness looks like she's about to have a high society aneurysm from the sheer insolence, while Seraphina is forced to grit her teeth and promise to try her best while her fists tremble with the rage of 1,000 suns. Our girl just bids them a safe trip back, privately vowing to shatter Seraphina's mask piece by piece while the saintly protagonist tries to survive her own social climbing. The scene shifts to the bestie's luxurious estate, where our girl arrives to find Evangeline waiting with a very specific critique. Instead of a warm welcome, the blonde villainess gives her a greeting score of -3 points, labeling the entire performance as purely mediocre. When our heroine asks why she's suddenly being audited by a judging panel, the villainess blushes and explains that true friends shouldn't be so stiff and formal with one another. Our girl finds the reason absolutely adorable and promises to be much more casual from now on, which only makes the prickly blonde tell her to stop staring with such burdensome eyes. They settle in for some high-end lemon cake, and for a moment, our heroine feels like a pampered house cat in her previous life, watching all her earlier stress evaporate with every bite of dessert. She imagines herself lounging on a couch with a cat on her lap, except the cat is now her prickly blonde friend who is secretly a sweetheart. However, our girl notices that the bestie seems a little too relaxed considering the saloon is only 2 weeks away. The blonde sweetheart admits that while she is technically the host, her brother usually handles every single piece of paperwork on his own just to let her rest. She feels guilty about piling more work onto his already insane schedule of managing vassals and endless business deals, wondering how he handles it all with a smile. Our girl realizes this is a critical turning point in the narrative. In the original novel, the Duke's desire to protect his sister eventually led to her being branded as an incompetent lady who cared only for vanity. This reputation allowed Seraphina to frame her during a high-end spice fraud incident, stealing the credit for uncovering the truth while the villainess was branded as a clueless swindler and eventually ousted from society. Determined to prevent this social execution, our girl decides it is time to flip the script on the truly incompetent one. She tells her new friend that this is the perfect opportunity to look over the documents herself and gain some actual confidence. The blonde is visibly hesitant, wondering if she can actually handle the mountain of work usually reserved for her brother, but our girl is already leaning in with a determined look. She promises to be right there to help her navigate the paperwork and ensure she understands exactly how the ducal house operates. Our heroine extends her hand, asking the bestie to trust her, as she prepares to shatter the vanity labels and turn the designated villainess into a powerhouse that even Seraphina's plot armor won't be able to touch. The bestie is currently staring at a mountain of paperwork with the facial expression of someone trying to do complex calculus in a language they don't speak. Our girl notices her prickly friend is visibly bored out of her mind and steps in as the ultimate administrative consultant, asking if she's actually used to reviewing these kinds of documents. Seeing a total lack of experience, our heroine grabs a sheet and suggests they start by slashing the absurdly high budget for flower decorations. She points out that cluttering the room with massive floral arrangements will only create a social obstacle course and block the guests from actually seeing the artwork. Instead of turning the salon into a botanical garden, our girl suggests redirecting those funds toward professional lighting and technicians so the art can actually shine. Eva is visibly impressed by this logic, and as our girl explains the budget-neutral shift, the villainess starts blushing with an adorable desire to learn. Our heroine looks at her and realizes that calling this girl ignorant was a total forged plot point by a foolish author, and that the village saint was just plain wrong. Lariat is privately having a crisis of cuteness while looking at the bestie's shining eyes, promising to be her permanent paperwork partner whenever she needs help. This makes the blonde sweetheart so excited that she accidentally breaks character and grabs our girl's hand with total enthusiasm, only to immediately short-circuit and regain her cool girl persona through a fit of blushing. They spend the rest of the afternoon doing a deep dive into the documents, reviewing everything from blueprints to business partners. Our girl feels a wave of pure relief when she checks the guest list and confirms that the toxic trio, the green-haired snake, the scam artist fiancé, and the dragon ant are nowhere to be found. With the trash officially banned from the premises, they can finally focus on making the Empire's biggest event a success without any unwanted social parasites dragging them down. Later that evening, the Duke of Emotional Damage arrives back at the estate looking like a high-definition dream with his tie loosened and his hair artfully messy from a long day of state council meetings. He calls for a coffee and the salon documents, fully prepared to spend his entire night fixing his sister's inevitable mistakes. However, when the butler informs him that Eva already hauled the files to her room to review them herself, Dietrich is visibly stunned, probably wondering if his sister has suddenly developed a personality transplant. He starts reading through the papers and realizes they've been neatly sorted with advice notes so detailed and professional, they look like they were written by a veteran statesman. The butler helpfully mentions that our girl was there to guide the process, and the Duke realizes his little sister isn't just a sheltered princess anymore. He finds Eva fast asleep at her desk and carries her to bed with a rare smile of sibling pride, canceling his coffee order because there is literally nothing left for him to fix. The next morning, Eva wakes up in her bed and realizes her homework has been confiscated, so she storms down to the salon only to find her brother already waiting for her. Dietrich is sitting there with a freshly poured cup of tea, literally counting down the seconds until her entrance like he's timing a theatrical play. He praises her work as excellent, and while the bestie admits she had some help from our heroine, she still tries to claim her share of the glory for the sleepless night. The Duke is so charmed by her newfound initiative that he actually expresses interest in attending the event himself, which is a massive shock considering he usually avoids parties like they're a plague. He teases her by asking why he hasn't received an invitation yet, leaving the Villainess stunned that the most important man in the Empire actually wants to come see the show she and our girl have built from scratch. The bestie is currently in a state of total disbelief because her brother has actually offered to clear his schedule for her party instead of treating it like an optional background task. Usually, he's a workaholic ghost who treats her salon preparations as a cue to go flirt with a state council meeting, so she is naturally suspicious of his sudden commitment to family bonding. Dietrich admits he's committed enough social sins to earn a lifetime of distrust, but his apology doesn't move her much. She informs him that she's already booked her afternoon with our girl and won't be attending the salon with him as a united front, leaving the Duke looking like a man whose feelings just got hit by a high-speed train. However, he admits the documents she prepared were so pristine and perfect that he couldn't find a single mistake to fix, which is basically the highest praise a man with a PhD in perfectionism can give. Hearing her brother, who is usually pickier than a toddler at dinner, actually praise her work makes Eva practically beam with the pride of an honors student who just got extra credit. She starts gushing about how our heroine is the most intelligent person she's ever met, assuming her paperwork skills come from her status as a noble heir. Dietrich privately suspects there is a lot more to it than simple inheritance, noting that even his best veteran administrators don't write advice notes this detailed or professional, but he keeps his observations to himself for now. He watches his sister stomp off to finish her work with the realization that he might have been overprotecting her like a piece of fragile porcelain, when she's clearly much more lively and capable with our girl acting as her administrative co-pilot. The scene shifts to the salon itself, which is packed with every famous figure in the Empire, from the Marcionis Baldwin to high-ranking members of the Imperial Council. Our girl is scouting the room like a socialite spy, realizing that the saintly protagonist was only using her as a human ladder to reach these top-tier VIPs. She questions the logic of the original novel's world-building, wondering why anyone would believe malicious rumors about the bestie when the entire room is currently falling over themselves to admire her planning and taste. Her internal monologue is interrupted by the Villainess herself, who is practically vibrating with joy and looking like a very happy cat. They link hands as Eva admits the response to the food and exhibition has been glowing, though she quickly tries to retreat back into her cool, prickly persona to save face. Our heroine is not fooled for a second, finding the prickly sweetheart totally adorable and thinking that even the high-priced sculptures look like dull gray rocks compared to her friend's beauty today. The bestie offers to show our girl the family's private art collection later, but the vibe is suddenly crashed by the Duke himself. Our girl is having a total internal crisis because this high-definition dream is destined to be the toxic protagonist's future love interest in the original story, making this meeting feel like a social death trap. Eva introduces them with total sibling pride, but our girl is just trying to figure out how to return his handkerchief without her brain short-circuiting into a permanent loading state. Naturally, the universe decides to stir the pot, and a guest calls Eva away to greet a Marcionis. Before our heroine can protest, her new friend leaves her alone with the Duke, mishearing her whispered pleas for help as a request for more finger food. Our girl is left standing there, her soul practically leaving her body for a permanent vacation, as the Duke of Emotional Damage leans in dangerously close to her ear and asks if she is feeling alright since her face has suddenly lost all its color. Our girl is currently having an internal crisis of the highest order, wondering if the Duke has superhuman hearing. As he leans in close enough for her to smell his expensive, high society scent, she frantically tries to assemble her dignity into a coherent sentence. She claims she is perfectly fine and just a bit overwhelmed by her first salon, but as she tries to make a strategic retreat, her feet betray her. In a scene ripped straight out of a classic romance novel, she stumbles over her own dress, only for Dietrich to catch her with the kind of lightning reflexes only a primary male lead possesses. He is so close now that she can't even look him in the eye without feeling like her heart is going to launch itself out of her chest. Dietrich expresses genuine concern, noting that her pale complexion suggests she's one step away from a fainting spell, and offers to call a doctor. Our girl, desperate to avoid being seen as a frail Victorian waif, suddenly flexes her mental muscles and blathers out that she has a healthy constitution that is second to none. She is privately mortified, realizing she just bragged about her physical sturdiness to the most elegant man in the empire like she's a prize-winning show horse. The Duke thinks she looks like a terrified rabbit, but he finds the healthy constitution remark so charmingly bizarre that he gives her a warm smile. He suggests that if she's really that sturdy, she should have no problem touring the rest of the salon with him. He extends his arm and our heroine, realizing her social image is already in the gutter, takes it, figuring she might as well enjoy the view while she's at it. As they walk arm in arm through the exhibition, our girl's administrative brain takes over. She's too busy critiquing the frame choices, the clever brochures, and the way the lighting makes the landscapes pop to realize she's currently the envy of every woman in the room. Dietrich notices that she's looking at the salon's arrangement more than the actual art, which prompts her to gush about how hard Eva worked on every detail. She downplays her own role as a consultant, insisting that while she gave a bit of advice, the Villainess was the one who made all the genius decisions. The Duke is visibly impressed, noting that it's no wonder his sister is so obsessed with her. He admits that Eva has become much brighter and more confident since they met, and he thanks our girl for looking into his sister's heart so carefully. Our heroine feels a surge of genuine joy, realizing she's just been officially recognized and validated by the bestie's family. To escape the emotional weight of his gratitude before she starts crying, our girl points to a massive statue in the center of the room. It's a depiction of an imperial legend, a nymph who was so obsessed with an unrequited love for a god that she eventually turned into a tree to escape her sorrow. Dietrich observes the statue with a typical male lead gloom, interpreting it as a tragic story about someone who gave everything and was still ignored. Our girl, however, isn't having it. She offers a fresh, spicy interpretation, suggesting that the nymph didn't turn into a tree out of sadness, but out of relief. She argues that the nymph was finally making a choice for herself, putting an end to the days of being dragged around by someone who didn't care. It's a clear parallel to her own escape from Serafina, and the Duke finds the interpretation absolutely fascinating. He leans in even closer to share a secret. Apparently, the legendary Ice Queen Evangeline actually cried herself to sleep after hearing that legend as a child. He tells our girl that Eva would love her version of the story, but she has to promise not to tell his sister that he leaked her childhood trauma. Our girl is charmed by how much this cold Duke clearly loves his younger sister, but the realization sends a chill down her spine. If Dietrich is such a kind, protective older brother, how on earth does the original novel end with him locking his own sister in a convent? She starts frantically digging through her memories of the original plot, trying to remember the exact incident that caused the Duke to turn on his own flesh and blood. Something about the original story isn't adding up, and our girl realizes that if she wants to save her bestie, she needs to figure out exactly what the incompetence scandal was before it's too late. In the original plot of this mess, the drama peaked at a scenic lakeside garden where the green-haired snake, Serafina, decided to audition for a tragedy. She stood there facing our bestie's fury, offering to apologize with her whole heart if someone would just point out her mistakes, practically begging for forgiveness with the grace of a professional victim. Naturally, our prickly sweetheart played right into the trap and launched Serafina into the lake, leading to our bestie's exile and a very dramatic drowning rescue scene. While the original readers were busy crying over this sad irony and calling for the Duke to run to the rescue, our girl is currently calling foul. Looking back, it's glaringly obvious that Serafina basically hand-delivered the invitation for that push, acting like a moth being lured into a very wet flame just to secure her spot as the ultimate martyr. Back in the present, the salon is buzzing with high society sharks, trying to secure a moment with the Duke of Emotional Damage. Our girl watches from the sidelines as men line up to pitch their new businesses, reminded that the man she's been casually chatting with is actually a massive deal in this world. When it's finally time for him to work the room, he doesn't just leave, he promises our girl a much longer conversation next time, leaving her blushing and doing a high-speed internal recalibration. She's currently fighting for her life against his overwhelming beauty and that gentle proposal for a round two, reminding herself that he's destined for Serafina and she needs to focus on her own career upgrade. She's determined to value her new position over a protagonist's destined lover, even if her heart is currently doing Olympic-level gymnastics. Meanwhile, the local gossip committee is gathered in a corner, whispering about how radiant our girl looks and how shocking it is that the Duke himself escorted her. They're baffled that the Ice Queen Evangeline is actually mingling with the daughter of a mere viscount, calling our bestie surprisingly humble for lowering herself to such company. Unfortunately for them, our bestie is hovering right behind them like a stylish omen. She repeats the surprisingly humble comment back to them, sending their souls on a temporary vacation. As they stammer through apologies and try to flatter their way out of the social grave they just dug, our bestie puts on her most terrifyingly angelic smile. She informs them she has no particular thoughts on their gossip before hijacking the moment to announce that the entire success and layout of the salon is actually thanks to her brilliant friend, our girl. She leaves them shaking in their expensive shoes, having successfully rebranded our girl from tag-along to the genius behind the curtain. Our girl is currently enjoying some quality time with a glass of wine when her bestie finds her, immediately demanding to know why she's alone and where her brother has disappeared to. When our girl explains he's just doing his Duke duties and talking business, our bestie's frustration levels hit a new high. She's ready to have a very serious talk with him for failing as an escort, but our girl manages to talk her off the ledge. She insists she's been treated with the utmost kindness by both siblings, which makes our bestie glow with relief. Our bestie reveals she's been on a one-woman PR campaign, making sure everyone knows our girl is the MVP of the salon, so they'll finally start showing some respect. Our girl is genuinely touched by the loyalty, realizing she almost abandoned a top-tier friend back when she was still under Serafina's spell. As the sun sets, the focus shifts to some homework our girl sent out earlier. In a nearby estate, Serafina is currently reading a letter with a grip so tight she might turn the paper back into wood pulp. The letter from our girl is a total bridge burner, calling out Serafina for her fake concern and her failure to even show up at the salon. Our girl writes that their friendship is hollow and that she's officially retired from being used as a social tool, ending the note with a very clear, "Don't cross my path again." Serafina doesn't take the breakup well. She crumbles the letter and drops her innocent act entirely, her face shifting into a death glare that would make a gargoyle flinch. She's currently laughing to herself like a true villain, shouting into the empty room that our girl is nothing more than her lifelong maid. In her twisted mind, it doesn't matter if our girl tries to avoid her. Serafina has decided she owns her, and she's not planning on letting her property go without a fight. The salon has finally reached its conclusion, leaving our bestie slumped over a table like a piece of high-end furniture that's given up on life. She's currently pouring out her gratitude, insisting that the entire success of the event belongs to our girl, while our heroine offers a supportive thumbs up and reminds the prickly sweetheart that she was the one who actually did the heavy lifting. When our girl checks the clock and sees it's already 8, she prepares to make her exit and find a carriage, but the bestie looks like she's just been told the concept of friendship has been cancelled. She suddenly mentions a very convenient, totally not made-up custom where friends stay up all night talking and having fun, and our girl realizes she's being invited to the most high-stakes pajama party in history. The sheer overwhelming cuteness of the Duke's daughter pitching a sleepover hits our girl so hard her legs actually lose their subscription to reality, and she has to physically steady herself to keep from collapsing into a puddle of fangirl tears. Our girl quickly plays off her weak knees as a sudden bout of exhaustion, leading the bestie to clear her throat and suggest a night of snacks and card games for the sake of our girl's health. It's a transparent excuse, but our girl plays along with the act, feeling genuinely honored as the bestie reveals she's already prepared several different nightgowns for her to try on. What follows is a repeat of the boutique modeling trauma, with our girl being forced into a midnight fashion show that leaves her energy levels hovering somewhere around 0. By the time they finally settle down for card games, the bestie is absolutely dominating the table, winning round after round while accusing our girl of letting her win on purpose. In reality, our girl is just trying to keep her eyes open after being treated like a high society dress-up doll for the last hour. Eventually, the cards are cleared away and the two of them collapse onto the bed for some mandatory gossip. The bestie checks in to make sure the scam artist ex-fiancé is truly a ghost of the past, and our girl confirms that she wouldn't have served those annulment papers if she still had a single shred of interest in that dumpster fire of a man. With the trash officially taken out, the bestie pivots to the real topic, asking if there's anyone else who makes our girl's heart do a little celebratory dance, someone handsome, kind, or even just slightly attractive. Our girl's brain immediately pulls up a high-definition mental billboard of the Duke, but she tries to act like there isn't a single man on her radar. The bestie isn't buying the act for a second, pointing out that our girl and her brother have been getting along suspiciously well lately. She goes on a full recruitment drive for her brother, admitting that while the Duke can be annoying, he's probably the most responsible and good-looking man in the Empire, and she certainly wouldn't mind having our girl as a permanent fixture in the family. Hours later, while the bestie is sound asleep and dreaming of her next social victory, our girl is staring at the ceiling and realizing her brain is far too caffeinated by the Duke-related gossip to actually sleep. She decides to step out onto the balcony for some fresh air and a view of the roses, but a sudden breeze decides to play a prank and steals her hair ribbon right out of her hands. Before it can disappear into the night, a hand catches it mid-flight, and she looks over to find the Duke himself standing on the neighboring balcony. He's currently looking like a high-definition dream, explaining that he just stepped out for some air while working on Duke-related business. Our girl is currently suffering from a severe case of social paralysis, especially since she was just being recruited to join his family 5 minutes ago. But the Duke isn't there for casual small talk, and he asks if she can spare a few moments for a question he's been waiting to ask her since they first met. Our girl is currently standing on the balcony under the moonlight, trapped in an interrogation with the Duke, who has been dying to know the real reason she sent that letter to his sister. She handles the question with the grace of a social warfare veteran, explaining that she was in desperate need of a new friend after realizing her previous circle, namely the green-haired snake and the scam artist X, was a total mismatch for her soul. She tells him that while she stood in the crowd, she saw solitude in the bestie that matched her own, and despite her less-than-stellar reputation, the prickly sweetheart accepted her exactly as she is. This revelation hits the Duke right in the heartstrings, causing him to drop his professional guard and unleash a genuine high-definition smile that makes our girl feel like she's just witnessed a hidden scene that wasn't even in the original plot. The conversation shifts to the salon's success, and while our girl insists it was splendid, the Duke is clearly leaning into his overprotective big brother era. He admits he handled the final reviews, but worries that his sister might be crumbling under the pressure of actual work. Our girl tries to reassure him that the bestie is handling her duties like a total pro, but internally she's picturing his sister as a grumpy kitten chewing on the Duke's expensive suits. She notices the Duke is looking a bit ragged from carrying the entire weight of his title since he was a teenager, and when she tells him to prioritize his health and that smile of his, she nearly falls victim to his beauty again. She blushes and tries to make a hasty retreat for the night, but the Duke drops a smooth line about not counting this accidental meeting as their promised next conversation, essentially asking for an official date without using the word. Our girl is left standing there doing mental gymnastics, wondering if the destined hero is actually flirting or if she's just having a very vivid hallucination. The next morning, our girl is greeted by the bestie, who is currently vibrating with enough suspicious energy to power a small city. She presents a gift of high-grade tea from the estate, but the real scandal is the packaging. The Duke apparently used our girl's lost hair ribbon to tie the box, which is the high society equivalent of a neon sign shouting his interest. The bestie is watching her with literal stars in her eyes, looking a bit like a stylish stalker as she demands to know what exactly is going on between her and her brother. Our heroine tries to brush it off as a simple thank you gesture for a friend, but the bestie isn't having it. She laughs through a handkerchief, teasing our girl about her sudden popularity and promising to play dumb if she starts sending secret love letters to the Duke's office. Our girl is currently dying of embarrassment, while the bestie heads off with a diabolical plan to roast her brother into oblivion. The bestie storms into the Duke's office expecting a flustered disaster, but she's met with a wall of professional logic that would make a lawyer weep. When she tries to tease him about the ribbon and the gift, the Duke simply claims it would be a breach of etiquette to send a valuable consultant home empty-handed. He dismisses her attempts to fluster him by insisting his sincerity is purely professional, leaving the bestie absolutely annoyed that her plan to tease him failed so miserably. Since she can't win the emotional battle, she decides to escalate the professional one. She calls for the family lawyer not to fire our girl, but to upgrade her entire life. Since our girl has proven she's the MVP of the season, the bestie is officially renewing the contract, moving it from a temporary arrangement to a permanent partnership that keeps her right by her side. Our girl is currently staring at a legal document with the kind of trembling hands usually reserved for a bomb squad, convinced that she's looking at a massive clerical error. She insists that the contract is completely wrong, but the prickly sweetheart is already 3 steps ahead, claiming she's been reviewing the clauses for days and is worried the payment is actually too low. The bestie is genuinely concerned that the maintenance allowance she wrote down is a measly amount that will cause our girl stress, even suggesting she should switch the payment schedule from quarterly to monthly, just so our girl can buy enough clothes to make her wardrobe reach the point of literal structural failure. Our girl is practically shouting in confusion because, in her world, the numbers on the page look more like a lottery jackpot than a basic expense account. It turns out this whole situation started 4 days after the salon drama wrapped up. Our girl was just going about her business when the bestie arrived at her doorstep with a lawyer in tow and a letter of intent that had barely even arrived. Our heroine suffers a temporary hospitality heart attack, apologizing for the lack of proper refreshments, but the bestie, prepared as always, brought along high-end cake from her favorite shop as a gift. She quickly clarifies that she isn't just there for a sugar rush. It's a special day because she's officially renewing their agreement with a formal friendship contract. Our girl is touched until she actually reads the first clause, which states that the Claudio's estate will pay her 50,000 dirks quarterly, roughly $50,000, just for maintenance. The fine print is even more unhinged, demanding that 70% of that mountain of cash must be spent on clothes and luxury items to maintain her dignity, with our girl getting to pocket whatever is left. Our girl is completely floored, shouting that the amount is far too generous and questioning why the bestie is paying her to simply exist. The bestie, however, views this as a strategic military investment. She points out that they are officially a team dedicated to making the green-haired snake green with envy, and our girl needs a high society battlesuit that will make the Lopez family weep with jealousy. She insists she has plenty of money and simply wants to invest in someone she actually likes, treating our girl like a prized addition to her domain, right alongside her high-maintenance flowers. Seeing no way out of the kindness trap, our heroine finally signs the papers, promising to only use the funds when they are together. She cherishes that contract like a holy relic, declaring it a family heirloom now that the temporary label has been scrubbed from their partnership. The bestie, who has a 0% success rate at handling genuine affection, is currently suffering from a severe case of blushing and a total mental blackout as our girl talks about their hearts being officially linked by a legal document. To celebrate their new status as legally binding besties, they head out for a shopping trip that surprisingly doesn't involve modeling dresses. They end up at a high-end merchant guild to pick out teacups, because the bestie has decided to take charge of the townhouse's internal management. Our girl realizes this is a huge opportunity for the bestie to solidify her position in the household and immediately shifts into professional consultant mode. She starts dropping Harvard Business School levels of advice, suggesting that the bestie should compare prices between different merchant guilds and consider the preferences of the people actually using the teaware rather than just looking at the aesthetics. Our girl catches herself mid-lecture and worries she's overstepping her bounds by interfering in the Duke's estate business, but the bestie immediately deploys the ultimate weapon, high-definition puppy cat eyes. She reveals that the Duke of Emotional Damage himself has already given his official permission for our heroine to meddle in the internal affairs of the residence. Our girl is currently drowning in a growing sense of dread, wondering why on earth these two royals trust her with the keys to their empire. Meanwhile, across town, the Duke is currently rubbing his ears and wondering why they're suddenly itching, completely unaware that he is the star of our girl's latest internal panic. Our girl is currently fighting for her life against the bestie's sheer persistence, insisting that she shouldn't be meddling in the internal affairs of a ducal household. Even with the Duke's official permission, she's terrified of being seen as an overstepping outsider, but the prickly sweetheart isn't having any of it. She pulls a total emotional wild card, admitting that working on the salon with our girl made her feel useful for the first time in her life, like she was finally pulling her own weight instead of just being a figurehead. When the bestie tries to throw even more compensation at her to seal the deal, our girl finally caves just to stop the constant avalanche of money talk. They decide to tackle the townhouse management together, but our girl tries to set a strict browsing-only rule because she's realized the bestie has the spending habits of someone who thinks the Imperial Treasury is her personal piggy bank. Several hours of high-stakes furniture debates and wallpaper sessions later, our girl's legs are currently vibrating with exhaustion, while the bestie is still moving with the energy of a woman possessed by a home renovation demon. Our girl's ears and legs are practically trembling from the sheer volume of browsing, realizing that sitting on 41 different pretty chairs and holding a debate over every single cutlery set is the bestie's idea of a relaxing afternoon. While catching her breath in a shop full of elegant trinkets, our girl spots a fountain pen that looks like it was designed specifically for someone with the Duke's high-definition aesthetic. She starts wondering if it would make a good return gift for the tea and the hair ribbon, but the bestie catches her staring and immediately launches into a high-speed matchmaking session. She starts questioning if this gift with zero romantic feelings is as innocent as our girl claims, clearly enjoying the way our heroine is currently fumbling for an excuse to buy the Duke a present. We find out that the Duke of Emotional Damage is basically a legendary fortress when it comes to romance, having spent years rejecting every heart-shaped letter and extravagant gift sent his way with a cold professionalism that eventually scared everyone off. Because his reputation for being a total workaholic is so well known, Most ladies have given up and started admiring him from a safe, respectful distance. This makes the idea of a personal gift from our girl a massive deal, and the bestie eventually bullies her into buying the pen before someone else can snatch it up. Our girl also manages to secretly snag a second pen for the bestie as a gift, hoping to surprise her before their class the next day. The bestie drops her off at home, currently vibrating with excitement over the plan to play dumb when her brother receives the gift, leaving our girl to finally breathe a sigh of relief as the carriage pulls away. But the peace is shattered when the green-haired snake herself emerges from the bushes like a low-budget horror movie villain. Serafina is currently vibrating with a very unprotagonist-like rage, demanding to know why our girl hasn't been answering her letters and why she's suddenly trying to end their friendship. She abandons her polite society mask entirely, grabbing our girl's wrist with enough force to alarm the household staff and dragging her away for a private confrontation. Serafina has officially gone off the deep end, screaming about how our girl was always by her side and belonged to her. She's currently having a total obsessive meltdown, demanding to know why our girl went to the princess and suddenly stopped being her loyal little shadow. As she shakes our girl and screams that she was hers, our heroine realizes that the original plot hasn't just been slightly altered, it has been completely derailed. The green-haired snake is finally showing her true colors, and they are much darker and more twisted than anything the readers of the original novel ever saw coming. Our girl stares down the green-haired snake with a face so serious it could freeze boiling water, asking exactly when she signed a deed of ownership over to her. She makes it crystal clear that she was never anyone's possession, not the scam artist fiancé's, and certainly not her parents'. She challenges the girl who thinks she's a protagonist to wonder why she never once complained while she was busy being the social circle's favorite doormat. Our girl is officially done playing the role of the timid shadow in outdated clothes and bangs that hide her entire existence. When the snake tries to claim it isn't her fault that our girl has a bad personality, our heroine's internal temperature hits a record high. She explains that the snake's constant need for convenience and a sense of superiority ate away at her soul until she was physically hollow. She spent her entire life changing herself into a puppet that only spouted someone else's commands, leaving the real her a complete mystery. Instead of an apology, we get a masterclass in gaslighting. The green-haired snake claims she genuinely liked our girl and even worried when she fell into a pond back in the day. She insists the whole thing is just a misunderstanding and puts on a grin that looks like it was painted on by a horror movie director. She tells our heroine to go ahead and cut ties since she clearly hates her, then walks away with a smug farewell that leaves our girl wondering if the snake's brain has finally short-circuited. Later, back at the estate, our girl is preparing to step into her new role as a teacher while holding a gift. She wonders if the snake's new obsession is just a twisted worldview or the classic tantrum of a child who just had their favorite doll snatched away. She accidentally daydreams out loud on her very first day of class and has to apologize for the noise, but the bestie is too focused on her budget proposal to mind. They take a moment to admire a rose and gray fountain pen that looks like it was ripped straight out of a high-end luxury ad. Our girl gives a professional thumbs up for the purchase, but the mood shifts once they actually look at the math. Our girl starts pointing out calculation errors, missing labor costs, and a count of garden trees that doesn't even come close to reality. The bestie looks like a puppy that just realized it's not getting a treat, worried she's just creating a mountain of extra work for her brother to clean up. Our girl immediately deploys some top-tier emotional support, insisting that the margin of error is shrinking and that the bestie has improved more than she realizes. She claims she's never seen such an excellent student, and that seeing her so dejected makes her teacher heart break into tiny pieces. The bestie gets her second wind and dives back into the revisions, smiling at her new pen with a look of pure joy. Our girl notes that the habit of constantly checking and revising your work is a talent in itself, even if the bestie begs her not to be too generous with the praise. The academic vibe is suddenly interrupted when the Duke of Emotional Damage wanders in wearing his pajamas and glasses, looking like he just stepped off a runway for people who are dangerously attractive at midnight. He asks if his documents are buried in their pile of paperwork, and the bestie handles the situation with the grace of a professional wingwoman, and immediately announces she has an urgent appointment with the restroom. Our girl watches the bestie sprint out of the room with the awkwardness of someone escaping a crime scene and realizes she has been completely set up. She remembers the bestie's excessive excitement about the fountain pen earlier and realizes the little princess was playing matchmaker the whole time. Now our heroine is left standing alone in front of the Duke, wondering if it's too late to also claim she has a sudden bathroom emergency. While the Duke of Emotional Damage is busy hunting through the mountain of paperwork, our girl is having a private crisis about the timing of her next move. The Duke notices her looking startled and starts a casual conversation about the bestie's sudden interest in learning internal affairs. He admits he tried to get her a professional tutor, but the young lady's stubbornness is a force of nature, so he's basically just relieved our girl is the one dealing with it. He praises our girl's administrative talents, assuming her father, the Viscount, must have given her some top-tier training. Our girl plays it cool, accepting the compliment while internally preparing to drop a bomb. Before the Duke can make his exit, our girl stops him to offer a small token of appreciation for the tea he gifted her. She mentions she gave one to the bestie too, but the Duke initially pulls a classic "it's not that deep" by saying his gift was just a formality. He looks like he's about to hit the decline button, making our girl wonder if he has a strict no gifts from women policy. Desperate to seal the deal, she mentions she's also returning the handkerchief he lent her and leans in close. She whispers in his ear that the gift really suits him, a move so smooth it causes the Duke's professional composure to hit a temporary lag before he gratefully accepts. Outside the door, the bestie is currently auditioning for a role as a professional eavesdropper. She thinks the Duke should have just taken the gift without the drama, but she's immediately caught when the Duke exits. He hits her with the ultimate big brother move, a head pat combined with a warning not to ruin her dinner by eating too much dessert. The bestie is predictably frustrated, wishing he'd just leave her hair alone, while our girl watches from inside, convinced these two are basically a live-action version of a heartwarming mythology about perfect siblings. Once the Duke is gone, the bestie sprints back inside to interrogate our heroine about the date she just witnessed. Our girl tries to claim it was just a professional courtesy to build a connection, but the bestie isn't buying the office politics excuse for a second. She threatens to just ask her brother later if our girl won't spill the tea, then quickly pivots back to their study session when our girl gets a look of pure academic frustration on her face. The scene shifts to dinner, where our girl is busy cutting steak and realizing the bestie is aggressively trying to play matchmaker. At the table, the sibling warfare is in full swing. The bestie straight up asks if the Duke asked our girl on a date, and the Duke fires back by calling out her eavesdropping habit. He claims he isn't nitpicking her questions, he's just correcting her wrongdoing, so she grows up properly. The bestie eventually caves with a frustrated apology, and our girl realizes the Duke is a seasoned pro at handling his sister's teasing. As the meal continues, the Duke keeps the vibes polite, apologizing for the noisy family dynamic and encouraging our girl to try the chef's specialty. Our girl notices that the Duke hasn't looked away from his sister once during the entire meal. She realizes the real reason she was invited wasn't for a secret romance, but because the Duke just wanted to watch his sister actually enjoy her time with a friend. Seeing their genuine affection makes our girl start missing her own family back at the Viscounty, but the nostalgia is short-lived. A letter arrives from her mother, and the mood goes from warm and fuzzy to legal emergency. Her mother mentions receiving word from the ex-fiancé's household about a certain annulment, and asks if the rumors are true. Our girl's soul practically leaves her body as she realizes she was so busy reinventing her life that she completely forgot to tell her parents she officially canceled her membership in the Scam Artists fan club. She's officially promoted herself to an unfilial daughter in record time. The bestie finally manages to calculate the entire budget proposal without a single mathematical fatality, but when she looks up for her gold star, she finds our girl currently vibrating with high-level anxiety. Our heroine offers a lukewarm compliment that wouldn't even satisfy a toddler, immediately trying to pivot the lesson to the upcoming transaction. The bestie isn't fooled for a second, pointing out that normally our girl would be circling the room like a hyperactive cheerleader, shouting about how there couldn't possibly be a student as excellent in the history of education. She practically demands her enthusiastic praise, but our girl admits she's been a sleep-deprived mess because the legal drama has finally hit home. It turns out the professional scam artist ex-fiancé's family sent a letter to our girl's parents, breaking the news of the annulment before she could. In the world of high society etiquette, this is the equivalent of having your toxic ex call your mom to tell her you're a failure. Our girl is terrified that her parents are currently in a state of total shock in the South. The bestie immediately declares she is joining the road trip to the Viscounty, refusing to let our girl face the music alone. She plans to testify as an eyewitness to exactly how much of a dumpster fire the ex-fiancé really was. When our girl tries to politely decline to save her time, the bestie plays the ultimate guilt card, asking if she's too embarrassed by her supposedly bad personality to introduce her to the family. Our heroine is so touched she's ready to record the day of the visit as a historic anniversary. They even start planning gifts, noting that the Viscount has a refined taste for wine while the mother shares the bestie's obsession with roses. Before the travel plans can finalize, it's time for a practical lesson in quality comparison. The master of the Red Merchant Guild arrives to peddle an imported teapot set that costs a cool $1,500 dark. Old version bestie would have just handed over the gold, but current version bestie demands a quality guarantee under the guild's name and a clause that requires the original overseas craftsman to handle any repairs. When the merchant tries to claim that's impossible, our girl subtly flashes a sign reminding her of the rival Wells Merchant Guild. Catching the hint, the bestie casually mentions that the competition has already agreed to those terms. The merchant folds so fast it's almost embarrassing, desperate not to lose the contract to a rival. Outside the door, the Duke is once again lurking, doing his best impression of a concerned plant while eavesdropping on the whole negotiation. He's genuinely shocked to see his sister has evolved from an impulsive shopper into a meticulous negotiator. As the merchant representative finally exits the room, he spots the Duke standing right there in the hallway. Before the man can say a word and blow his cover, the Duke shoots him a sharp signal to stay silent. The merchant takes the hint and scurries off, leaving the bestie completely unaware that her brother was spying on her professional glow-up. The Duke eventually enters the room to find the girls discussing tea aesthetics. The bestie explains she's buying different sets to cater to both the older and younger guests of the house, but when our girl suggests that replacing perfectly functional items is wasteful, the bestie backs down instantly. The Duke realizes his sister treats our girl's every word like a divine commandment, while his own brotherly advice is usually treated like an annoying notification. Seeing that his sister is finally functioning at a high intelligence level, he decides to stop treating her like a child. He asks her for a genuine favor, requesting that she take full charge of the preparations for the upcoming vassals meeting. The bestie is so stunned by the sudden promotion that she looks like her brain is currently trying to download a file too large for its hard drive, processing the fact that the Duke actually trusts her with the family legacy. The Empire's favorite prickly sweetheart is feeling a bit skeptical when her big brother suggests she handle the high-stakes vassal meeting. But the Duke isn't backing down. He's seen her work skills hit a new peak lately and insists she's ready for the challenge. He even offers to drown her in a massive budget increase to smooth over any rookie mistakes, but our favorite budget whisperer steps in with a reality check. She warns his high-definition Grace that spoiling his sister with a blank check now is a recipe for a future financial tragedy, as it's much harder to adjust to a pay cut than a raise. She finishes by adding that Eva is a competent queen and can handle it without any handicaps. Evangeline looks at our girl like she just watched a miracle happen, while the Duke admits that ignoring such solid logic would be a crime. When the little sister tries to officially hire her friend as a full-time tutor on the spot, our heroine blushes into another dimension. She gently declines the job offer, pointing out that if they turn their friendship into a professional contract, they'll never have time to actually hang out. Eva steals her determination. She will work hard and honor their trust. Fast forward 1 week, and it's game day at the ducal estate. The fledgling manager is vibrating with pure productivity energy, micromanaging the snack table to ensure the elderly vassals get fresh fruit instead of a mid-meeting sugar crash. She's even ordering extra cushions like she's staging a 5-star retirement home. Just as the prep hits its peak, a maid rushes in with news that the rose seedlings the girl has been desperately obsessing over have finally arrived, sending her into a total gardening frenzy. Meanwhile, the Duke is strolling through the halls with his lead administrator, who has basically become a charter member of the sisters' new fan club. Apparently, her budget proposal was so lean and efficient that it practically performed its own audit. When they step into the newly renovated meeting room, the Duke finds a space that looks expensive but costs less than a casual brunch. The elderly vassals arrive and immediately lose their minds over the ergonomic chairs and documents printed in a font size so large you could read them from the next county over. One of them is even moved to actual tears, realizing the childish young lady has officially graduated into a thoughtful leader. The Duke is feeling a weird mix of pride and confusion, knowing our heroine is the secret ingredient behind this sudden competence. Once the meeting wraps up without a single tired back or strained eye, the Duke is ready to shower his sister in praise, only to find out she's already pulled a disappearing act. His administrator mentions that while she summoned our girl for help, she ditched her to deal with an urgent rose emergency before the meeting even started. The Duke is internally face-palming, assuming the little sister has reverted to her old habits and left her guest to rot in the library. He marches over to investigate, only to find our girl has fallen into a deep sleep halfway through a reading session. Just as her head is about to take a dive toward the floor, he swoops in for a classic romantic save, catching her against his chest. As he stands there holding the sleeping beauty, his heart starts acting like it's trying to break a speed record, and his face begins to glow with a very high-definition blush. His high-definition Grace is currently having a total biological system error. As he looks down at the sleeping girl leaning against his chest, he realizes that the frantic drumming sound isn't her heartbeat, it's his own. Since he has approximately zero experience being flustered by another human being, his first instinct is to wonder if he's suddenly contracted a mysterious illness. If he isn't sick, then the only other explanation is the lady he can't seem to take his eyes off. He carefully swaps her book for his own shoulder, letting her use his designer coat as a pillow while he settles in for the most intense library session of his life. When our favorite administrative queen finally blinks back to reality, she realizes she's been using the Empire's most eligible bachelor as a mattress. She starts stuttering out apologies, but the Duke is busy wearing that terrifyingly polite smile people use when they're actually fuming. He's annoyed that his sister ditched her guest to go play, but our girl quickly jumps to the defense of the budding gardener. She explains that the meeting prep was already flawless, and she only stayed behind to nerd out over the library's rare book collection. She insists the little sister only left because of a rose-related emergency, pleading with such genuine desperation that our girl couldn't possibly say no. The Duke softens, admitting that the meeting was a massive hit thanks to her ergonomic interventions. He's genuinely moved that our heroine noticed the vassals were getting too old for stiff chairs and tiny font sizes. Our girl is touched, feeling like her hardworking behind the scenes is truly valued and acknowledged. He even notices a stray document on the table and realizes his sister has actually learned how to draft a budget without setting the house on fire. For a second, our girl thinks his eyes are watering from the sheer emotional weight of his sister growing up, but he insists his eyes are just strained from his chronic habit of overworking in the dark. Remembering how the little sister worried about her brother's constant self-sacrifice, our heroine decides to stage an intervention. She suggests a warm compress and, before her brain can send a bad idea alert to her hands, she rubs her palms together and presses them directly over his eyes. She's providing a manual eye spa treatment, but the second she realizes she is currently cupping the face of the Empire's greatest duke without a permit, she tries to retreat in a panic. She starts babbling about how she does this for her family and didn't mean to be so forward, but His Grace isn't ready for the treatment to end. He catches her hand midair, claiming his vision is suddenly dizzy and aching, and he absolutely needs her to continue. His heart is back to breaking land speed records as he leans in close, guiding her hand back to his face with his own. The romantic tension is thick enough to cut with a sword until the rose-obsessed sister bursts into the room like a chaotic whirlwind. She starts apologizing for being late, but stops dead when she sees the two of them huddled together in a corner looking like they just got caught committing a crime. Both the Duke and our girl immediately pivot into a synchronized state of denial, insisting that absolutely nothing is happening. The little sister is suspicious of their glowing red faces, but she's too excited about her floral haul to press for details. She explains that she personally tracked down these rare roses as a gift for our girl's mother, which melts our heroine's heart instantly. While the girls bond over the rose emergency, the Duke takes the first available exit. He leans against the hallway wall, clutching his chest and wondering what on earth possessed him to act like a thirsty protagonist in front of his sister's best friend. The Duke is currently horizontal on the sofa, sporting a very fashionable, damp white cloth over his eyes. The bestie waltzes into the room to announce her departure, immediately questioning his makeshift spa treatment. The Duke admits it is not exactly a miracle cure, but it gets the job done. Unbothered by his need for darkness, the bestie snatches the towel right off his face, insisting he at least look her in the eyes to say goodbye. She proudly declares she will be spending the next few days vacationing at the Onsi Viscounty and assigns him the chore of keeping the ducal estate from burning down in her absence. Then she pinches his cheek and tells him to have a safe trip on his upcoming business travels. This catches the Duke slightly off guard, but the bestie steamrolls right over his confusion, noting that his travel destination is suspiciously close to the Onsi estate. She casually suggests he drop by once his work is done, demanding he send a letter in advance if he actually plans to show his face. Left entirely to his own devices, the Duke ponders her invitation. He imagines showing up at the Viscounty and immediately cringes. His mind flashes back to that intensely intimate moment where he was practically inhaling the scent of our girl's wrist. Realizing there is absolutely zero chance he could act normal after a stunt like that, he concludes that a surprise visit is a terrible, horrible, no good idea. Meanwhile, a carriage rolls along the coastline. The bestie is captivated by the ocean view, marveling at how lucky the Viscount and Viscountess are to wake up to such scenery every day. She turns to ask our girl how long it has been since her last visit, but our heroine is currently stationed on another planet. The bestie literally snaps her fingers in front of our girl's face to reboot her brain. Our girl scrambles for an apology, blaming her lack of focus on travel fatigue, but in reality, her mind is screaming. She is obsessively replaying that incredibly awkward, overly physical wrist-sniffing encounter with the Duke. She is mentally torturing herself, wondering why she let it happen, why he asked her to keep going, and what any of it actually meant. She tries to blame her lapse in judgment on the perfect weather and the romantic atmosphere, before violently shaking her head to clear the thoughts, desperate to maintain her emotional boundaries. Watching this frantic head shaking, the bestie suddenly gasps, entirely misreading the situation. She smugly accuses our girl of being a nervous wreck ever since receiving that letter from her mother, assuming she is terrified of getting a parental scolding over the annulment. Shocked but incredibly relieved by this convenient misunderstanding, our girl eagerly nods along, praising the bestie for reading her mind so perfectly. The bestie confidently grabs her hand, promising to neutralize any parental anger by dropping a tactical nuke of expensive gifts before things can even get tense. Upon arriving at the Grand Mansion, they are greeted by the Viscount and Viscountess, who are visibly sweating bullets. The parents bow with such intense, overwhelming formality that they look ready to pledge their eternal loyalty to the bestie. The Viscountess gushes about what an absolute honor it is to host someone so magnificent, trembling with gratitude. The bestie leans in and whispers to our girl, noting that her parents look too petrified to even say hello properly. Our girl whispers back, explaining that the last time a high-ranking noble visited, he was a massive snob. So naturally, her parents are terrified of someone with an even higher status. Deciding it is time for the sensible one to take charge, the bestie steps forward with maximum charm. She formally introduces herself and immediately deploys her bribery strategy. A maid steps forward carrying a mountain of treasure. The bestie casually presents a 100-year-old Roman vintage wine, paired with a matching purple sapphire brooch for the Viscount. For the Viscountess, she offers rare white roses imported from the East and a diamond necklace shaped like a rose. The parents look like they might pass out from sheer joy and shock, stammering that they cannot possibly accept such precious items when their own preparations are so humble. Our girl just stands there silently screaming, wondering when her friend had the time to casually procure a small kingdom's worth of jewelry. The bestie smoothly brushes off their hesitation, insisting that an invitation to the home of her absolute favorite person is worth going a little overboard for. Unable to resist such a warm, wealthy flex, the Viscount gracefully accepts. Our girl watches them exchange pleasantries, feeling a wave of pure joy wash over her as her favorite people effortlessly hit it off. Her heartwarming moment is violently interrupted when a maid approaches the Viscount to announce the arrival of another guest. When the Viscount asks who could possibly be visiting, the maid drops a verbal bomb, revealing it is none other than Lady Lopez. Hearing that the green-haired snake has somehow slithered onto her family's doorstep, our girl's brain completely short-circuits. The scene opens inside a moving carriage, where the green-haired snake is gripping a small puppet that looks exactly like our girl. She is having a full mental breakdown replaying their last encounter. In her memory, our girl coldly declares she is done being used as a prop. Serafina remembers screaming in genuine shock, desperately reminding our girl of her old promise to always prioritize Serafina's happiness. Unfazed, our girl simply smiled, officially resigned from her role as a mindless sidekick, and walked away to be the main character of her own life. Back in the present, sitting alone in her carriage, Serafina tastes rejection for the very first time. A terrifying wave of panic washes over her as she realizes her other human toys might also stage a walkout. Her face twists into a nightmare-inducing smile as she whispers to the empty carriage that no one is ever allowed to leave her story. Back at the Onsi estate, a maid interrupts the peaceful parlor to announce that Serafina is hovering at the door with treats. Our girl immediately tries to deny her entry, but the Viscountess chimes in with terrible, innocent timing. Completely unaware of the broken engagement or the severed friendship, the mother kindly offers to go greet the guest herself so our girl can relax. Our girl is instantly sweating under the pressure. She realizes Serafina is intentionally weaponizing her parents' ignorance, and she has no idea how to handle a showdown with the bestie sitting right there. Thankfully, the bestie reads the room like a professional psychic. She smoothly steps in to save the day, insisting it would be rude to neglect a guest. She gracefully volunteers to stay behind, batting her eyelashes and begging the parents to educate her on their exquisite flowers and wine. The Viscount and Viscountess are instantly enchanted, practically vibrating with joy as they eagerly agree to entertain her. The bestie shoots our girl a sharp, commanding look, silently ordering her to go settle her trashy business. Fueled by this tactical support, our girl marches out with fresh determination to end this once and for all. Our girl confronts Serafina, who immediately launches into her innocent act. She presents a baked apple pie and orange juice, aggressively weaponizing their childhood memories. Completely immune to the baked goods, our girl demands she skip the pleasantries and get straight to the point. Feigning a broken heart, Serafina claims she came all this way just to apologize. Our girl's internal lie detector screams. She knows the snake way too well to believe she miraculously developed a conscience overnight. Doubling down on the delusion, Serafina pulls out a letter, revealing that the scam artist ex-fiancé also wants to apologize. She practically begs our girl to attend an upcoming party together so they can magically erase all their problems and go back to normal. To sell the performance, she squeezes out a fake tear, claiming she has not slept a wink because she was terrified of being abandoned. Our girl watches this Oscar-worthy performance with absolute deadpan energy. Once the fake tears stop, she calmly confirms that she is, in fact, completely abandoning her. She delivers a cold, hard reality check, stating that victims are not obligated to forgive their abusers, and throwing cheap ointment on a deep wound does not erase the scar. She firmly tells Serafina to pack up her sad little picnic and leave, promising to broadcast their official breakup to the entire high society so she never comes looking for her again. Hearing this absolute rejection, Serafina drops the innocent act like a hot potato. Her expression morphs into something truly demonic. She taunts our girl, asking if the bestie knows how cold and heartless she really is. Unbothered, our girl fires back that her new friend is far more understanding than Serafina could ever imagine. Taking that as a direct challenge, Serafina's smile turns downright wicked. Deciding to put this shiny new friendship to the ultimate test, the green-haired snake grabs the pitcher of orange juice and dumps it directly over her own head, cheerfully preparing to frame our girl for the sticky mess. Continuing her unhinged one-woman play, the green-haired snake loudly declares that no matter what terrible things our girl does, she will always stay by her side. To add some dramatic props to her performance, she aggressively spikes the apple pie directly onto the floor. She then starts shrieking at the top of her lungs, begging our girl to stop and wailing that she was wrong. Completely fed up, our girl grabs Serafina by the wrist, ordering her to drop the act and pointing out that absolutely no one in this house is going to buy this cheap victim routine. But timing is a cruel mistress. At that exact second, the bestie and the parents walk into the parlor. They freeze, taking in the highly compromising scene of our girl physically restraining her former friend over a puddle of juice and smashed pastry. Our girl's stomach completely drops as she sees the pure, unadulterated shock on her parents' faces, terrified that this little theatrical trap actually worked. In her own twisted mind, Serafina is practically taking a bow, basking in the stunned silence and thinking she is now the only person who will ever accept our isolated heroine. Panicking, our girl frantically defends herself, swearing she did not spill a drop of that juice and only asked her to leave. But the bestie smoothly steps into the chaos, raising a hand and requesting to hear Serafina's side of the story first. Our girl starts internally hyperventilating, her soul practically preparing to leave her body. She is absolutely terrified her brand new friendship is about to be cancelled. The bestie gracefully kneels next to the juice-soaked snake, calmly asking why she is currently wearing her own beverage. Turning on the waterworks, Serafina fake cries, claiming she only came to offer a party invitation and a peace-offering pie, but our girl violently rejected the reconciliation and threw the juice in her face. The bestie turns and asks if this is true. Unfazed by the pressure, our girl flatly states that Serafina gave herself a sticky shower. Deciding to base her ruling on absolute, undeniable facts, the bestie delivers her verdict. She calmly points out that Serafina's clothes are soaked, she is uncomfortable, and our girl clearly wants nothing to do with her. Therefore, the most logical solution is her immediate departure. Hearing this, Serafina looks like her brain just encountered a fatal error. The bestie ruthlessly reminds her that this is the Ansi estate, and if the host wants you gone, you pack up and leave. Plus, she really needs a change of clothes. Turning her focus, the bestie asks our girl to confirm she still wants the trash taken out, to which she eagerly agrees. The bestie then looks directly at the Viscount and Viscountess, asking if they support their daughter's wishes. Shaken but inspired by the bestie's ironclad resolve, the parents step up. Serafina tries to plead with the Viscount, but they firmly apologize and tell her it is best she goes home today. Once the sticky menace is officially escorted out, our girl is left alone with her friend. The bestie scoffs, noting that the parents were far too kind to have the servants walk her out, and complains about the sheer audacity of someone intentionally dirtying another person's floor on their way out the door. Our girl stays quiet for a beat before quietly asking if she actually believes her. The bestie looks at her like she just asked if water is wet. Of course she believes her. She brushes off the snake's pathetic stunt as a complete waste of time, proudly declaring that both she and the parents are unconditionally on our girl's side. Hearing that word, unconditionally, our girl's emotional dam completely breaks. Her eyeballs are practically sweating with relief as she admits with a watery smile that she was terrified the perfectly engineered misunderstanding would ruin everything. The bestie gently pats her back, promising to always believe her, no matter what kind of circus act gets thrown their way. Overwhelmed and deeply touched, our girl wraps her in a massive hug, repeatedly thanking her. Their heartwarming moment is softly interrupted when the Viscountess approaches. She checks if our girl is feeling a bit better, confirming the snake has officially been banished from the property. After our girl nods, the mother turns to the bestie. Looking incredibly apologetic for ruining the fun, she politely asks if she could borrow some alone time to have a serious talk with her daughter. The scene shifts to the tranquil garden, near a bubbling fountain. Our girl's mother gently places her hand over her daughter's, her face lined with concern. She points out that our girl seems completely overwhelmed between that mysterious letter and the absolute chaos that just unfolded in the parlor, and softly asks her to explain what is actually going on. Our girl hesitates. In the original story, the side character version of herself absolutely hated making people worry, completely bottling up her pain. The narration flashes back to a memory of the original storyline. A younger version of our girl was making flower crowns for her parents. She had clearly pricked her fingers on the thorns, her hands bruised and bleeding from Seraphina's torment. But when her mother checked on her, she hid her hands and pasted on a fake smile, offering the crown as if everything was perfectly fine. That toxic habit of excessive consideration eventually trapped her in the tragic role of a supporting character who suffered in absolute silence. But our girl is done playing that role. Taking a deep breath, she realizes her mother would rather know the ugly truth than let her suffer alone. She finally opens her mouth and spills everything. After dropping the truth bomb, her mother is absolutely stunned. Her eyes well up with tears as she realizes the extent of the torment her daughter endured in silence. She immediately validates our girl's feelings, assuring her that she absolutely did the right thing by breaking off the engagement. In fact, her mother drops a delightful plot twist. She never even liked the scam artist Gusto from the start, declaring him entirely unworthy of her daughter. When our girl points out that the bestie said the exact same thing, her mother smiles warmly, deciding that if her ladyship agrees, it is simply an objective fact. Wrapping our girl in a tight hug, her mother promises that as long as she is happy, the parents are completely fine with any decision she makes. Their emotional breakthrough is interrupted by the bestie, who casually strolls over to check if they have finished their heart-to-heart. The Viscountess immediately bows, profusely apologizing for keeping her waiting. But the bestie waves it off, claiming she was perfectly entertained chatting with the Viscount. She casually mentions her brother's business trip to the south for trade investments, which prompts the Viscountess to ask if he is dealing with Fly Trading, the biggest firm in the region. The bestie confirms it is highly likely, while our girl watches in awe, realizing her friend is speedrunning a close relationship with her mother. Then, the bestie drops the casual observation that it is quite a shame such a wealthy household rarely hosts parties. The Viscountess humbly explains that they are quiet folks who prefer attending rather than hosting. Hearing this, a very specific, scheming expression crosses the bestie's face, a look our girl instantly recognizes as the prequel to Absolute Chaos. The bestie playfully sticks her tongue out at our girl before turning to the Viscountess and proposing they throw a massive party right here, right now. She declares that she refuses to let those bullies off the hook and suggests they host an epic bash on the exact same day as the Gusto party to completely sabotage their attendance. The Viscountess and our girl are both hit with conversational whiplash, but the bestie smoothly explains that she already ran this by the Viscount. Apparently, after hearing the full, unedited story of the trash fiancé and the green-haired snake, the Viscount was practically in tears with rage, declaring they could not just sit back and do nothing. According to the bestie, this resulted in his full, enthusiastic permission to host the event. Our girl mentally translates this, highly suspecting her father blurted that out while happily intoxicated, but the Viscountess simply bows and agrees to help with the preparations. Our girl panics, trying to give her mother an out, arguing that this is all happening too fast. But her mother is suddenly thrilled, deciding this is the perfect opportunity to finally throw a party dedicated entirely to her daughter. Defeated by this united front, our girl mentally prepares for the overwhelming pressure of hosting the grandest party the South has ever seen. The bestie quickly ushers the Viscountess away, loudly whispering that our girl is just being shy, eager to show off the master plan she apparently already plotted with the Viscount. Watching them leave, our girl sighs, knowing there is no stopping the bestie once she enters party planning mode. She is just worried her friend is burning herself out when this trip was supposed to be a relaxing vacation. The next day, the estate is buzzing with preparation. The bestie is in her absolute element, clutching a bottle of wine and a freshly minted invitation. She purrs like a satisfied cat, admitting that organizing the flowers, food, and invites instantly boosts her mood. She proudly shows off the invitation, a perfect blend of her own style and the Viscountess's taste, confirming the party's official theme, wine and roses. Our girl just watches her, a bright, relieved smile spreading across her face. The bestie pauses, a little confused by the beaming expression. Our girl simply chuckles, realizing all her worrying about the bestie needing rest was completely pointless. This girl thrives on the chaos of event planning. Shrugging off the confusion, the bestie holds up the invitation and declares it is time to start delivering them. When our girl asks who exactly they are inviting, the bestie flashes a dangerously bright smile and says they are inviting every single noble in the South. And that's the end for today's recap. If you had fun, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support keeps the recaps coming. Choose your next binge. At the top is a crowd pleaser, and the bottom is the latest chaos drop. Thanks for watching. Stay comfy, keep your popcorn ready, and I'll see you in the next one.